Something to think about in terms of how stuff accumulates is we're going to get into this example of the $1 million from the bank, and that's when we're getting into classism, less so racism. If we were to think about all the things that this person accumulated over the 40 years of using this money, we want to talk about all kinds of boosts. It wasn't just the economic boost, and that's what I'm trying to get at when I say, what if you'd pay it back? What if you pay back the $1 million? So if somebody came to you today and said, hey, I'll give you a $1 million loan, but in 40 years you got to pay me back with interest. Most of us would probably take it, because we know that even having that money sitting in a bank account would make enough money for you to live off of for the rest of your life without working. So you could just let it sit and then pay it back. Even if you cleared out your bank account, everything in 40 years, we got to think about all the stuff that you gained in that 40 years, including your network is doing really well, so your kids are doing fine. Even if you wake up tomorrow without a dime to your name, you can probably go stay with your kids. I bet you they have a spare room. They will probably have enough money to even spare you some food for a while, and they'll maybe even have $1,000 or $2,000 for you to get on your feet. So you have people you can tap into. That's a giant source of wealth. You also have your resume. You've built up a resume. People will be more likely to hire you. You've built up your your credit history. So banks will be a lot more likely to loan you money. Also, you have the experience of having run a business before. People will be much more likely to trust you in the future. You also know a lot of people who are in hiring, so you may know somebody who can put you in touch with a job. You have a lot of intangibles that stay with you, even if you give up all of your money in your business. So there's no way that you can actually pay this back and put it back as if it had never been. You will always benefit from that boost that you got that was unfair. If we're thinking about this notion of accumulation and inheritance and generations, we want to think about how long that one-time boost would last. So let's say you got that $1 million. Your kids are doing pretty well. We know that. Your grandkids are likely to be doing well. Your great-grandkids are probably also going to be feeling the impact of this one-time boost. So that one-time boost could stay with you for a good long while. If we think about all the mechanisms by which having money makes it easier to save money and to make money, we could think about all the discounts that people with money get. Like, for example, I get a discount on paying my car insurance ahead of time. So if I can pay 6 months ahead, I'll get maybe a $100 break. That's $100 that other folks don't get to have. Or, for example, getting to buy goods that are more durable. They're not going to break down. So instead of spending $40 every 6 months on a new pair of shoes that breaks down, you could pay $150 on a more long-lasting pair of shoes that's going to last you quite a few more years. Likewise, for example, if you have good credit history, so if you have money, you will have a lower rate on your credit card interest rate. So the same purchase will cost you less. Or my bank, for example, gives you a break on your on your monthly bank fees if you have a certain minimum, $1,500 sitting in a bank account. So if you have money, there's all these little ways that you can save money. Like, for example, buying in bulk. You can afford to sink $50 into tuna and have it sitting there for the next 6 months because you're not that tight on the $50. Whereas if you're trying to make ends meet constantly, you can't get that bulk discount. There's a lot of ways that things accumulate within a lifetime and across generations. We could try to do a little bit of a flip and say, if one-time boost will last you quite a few generations, how much would it hurt you to have a one-time setback? So the concept of redlining is a practice that was put into place in many U.S. cities, even through the 1950s. So I pulled a quote from 1947 in Portland in which the bankers are outright stating that they want to keep neighborhoods racially segregated. That is, they will not lend money to black people if they're buying outside of the black neighborhood. They cannot buy a house, for example, in Laurelhurst or Irvington. So even if your grandfather had the money to buy the house, he was not allowed to buy in that property. In that neighborhood, including the real estate agents had a code, whereas they would lose their license if they sold to a person of color in the white neighborhood. So even if your grandfather had the money to buy that house, he couldn't do it because of the skin tone. And so if we were to think about a one-time boost, if you look back and imagine in 1955, your grandfather bought a house in Irvington or Laurelhurst. Those are nice neighborhoods. Those houses have appreciated quite a bit. We can imagine how that could still be helping you out today. Likewise, it could still be hurting you today. And if we think of networks as an incredible source of wealth, we got to think about what it means to have your network being chronically in crisis. So in the $1 million scenario, we thought of this person going to knock on their kid's door and staying in their guest room for a while. That's a network with a lot of support. We could even say that, there could be a network that can't support you. Like you have an emergency and your parents love you, but they say, we love you, honey, but we just don't have any money to help you out. That could be a neutral network. But then there's the networks that are chronically in crisis. And this is where we're getting into the poverty scenario, is when your people are constantly hurting, they will need to come to you for help. It's not just that they don't support you, is that they will need to knock on your door and say, oh my God, I need $500 or the car's going to get repossessed and then I'm going to lose my job because I can't get there. At this point, you have folks who are not boosting you, but are actually creating a pull where you need to be supporting them. So we want to think of all of the mechanisms that either help you out or pull you down. And these have nothing to do with the decisions that you're made or who you are or whether you went to school or not. This have a lot more to do with the structures that are built around you. We tend to think of reverse racism as just this notion of the joke that was made or having a personal interaction. And we tend to ignore the structures that are built in to either help or hurt us. This is what we're getting at with this cartoon, is recognizing that there's a long history and a long set of structures that are helping or hurting you.